More famous landmark buildings on your right. Directly to the right, the Chicago Tribune Tower. The Tribune Tower is the result of a 1922 architecture competition for the most beautiful office building in the world. That's first place by Raymond Hood and John Howes of New York. They won $50,000 for the first prize design, and it's based off of the Butter Tower from the Rouen Cathedral in France. Trump Tower and Hotel, which promises to be the new second tallest in the city when it's finally finished next spring. They're going for 92 stories up there, and they got about 87 of them finished. They've already got the hotel and the restaurant open, people moving into the condos. It was designed by Adrian Smith, the same guy who did the NBC Tower we saw just a minute ago. And although it doesn't really blend in with anything, it does pay tribute to some of its surroundings with these three setbacks. Each one are the heights of the building surrounding it. The first setback was the top of the Wrigley building, the second is the top of Marina City, and the third is the height of the IBM building right next door to it. So it tries to pay tribute to some of its surroundings in that way. They also have televisions in the bathroom, which is very modern and forward-thinking. Once you got to the mid-1950s, they got rid of that outside wall altogether and just left you with the basic, honest structure of a building to look at. What became known as the modern style of architecture on your looking at there, like we saw the modern version of on the NBC building. The metal plates, the vertical lines, the gentle setbacks, just some of the things they have in common. These giant heads you see in front of the building are the heads of the merchant princes of Chicago. And one of those heads belongs to Marshall Field, the guy that revolutionized the idea of the department store. The Merchandise Mart was built to consolidate all of Marshall Field's mail order warehouses under one gigantic rooftop here. So when people came to work the next day, any building that still had contact with those freight tunnels had anywhere from 20 to 40 feet of river water rising up into the lower levels of their office buildings the next day. Fish swimming through food courts and in between clothing racks. The Board of Trade shut down. Electricity gone for a week. And a problem that might have taken 10,000 to patch up suddenly took over $1 billion worth of damage to fix overnight. And that was the last major river disaster, the Great Flood of 1992. With the finger of blame and lawsuits wagged about to this very day, they say. We're going to hit the South Branch next. Underneath of the Lake Street Bridge, you just saw the elevated train race across the top of the bridge in front of us. The elevated train in Chicago, as well as the underground portion of it, it's all referred to as the L. Capital E, little L. Don't call it anything besides the L or people will laugh at you. Ooh, big fish. Anyway, sorry, easily distracted. And here it comes again. The Chicago elevated system was designed by the same man who would later go on to design the London Underground system as well. A guy named... Nice location for that. And don't forget, we still have Derek back there at the full-service bar, so don't let yourselves get parched or anything. Stay hydrated on the hot summer days. He is a man well-schooled in the bartending arts, and will be able to handle any drink accommodations you can usually throw at him, so take advantage. That was a public service announcement. Anyway, also ultimately, the fire had positive results for Chicago over time. What it really did was leave a clean slate to make up for the 10 stories, and if you throw those antennas into the mix, you go up to 1,725 feet. And from 1974 to 1998, that made it the tallest building in the world. It is still the tallest building in North America, but it is now the third tallest in the world, and probably sliding down that list in the coming years. It became second tallest in 1998 when they finished building the Petronas Towers of Malaysia, which were just a little bit taller than the Sears. And then last summer, it was declared that the Burj Dubai building in Dubai, which goes over 2,000 feet tall, is now the world's tallest. So Sears is the third tallest, and the Sears Tower was designed by the same men who also designed the John Hancock Center here in Chicago just a few years earlier, mainly Bruce Graham and Dr. Fazlur Khan as chief architect and engineer. The Sears was structurally unique at its time. It's put together very similar to the way these bridge pilings are down in the water. It's 9 little square buildings all bundled into one huge one. And you'll see here in the gap that 2 of those squares go all the way to the top, the entire 110 stories. The other 7 squares stop at different heights on the way up it to lend support to those main 2 as they make their climb. It was designed to handle the strong winds in Chicago, so the whole building will sway in the breeze a few inches. You can actually feel it moving a little on a windy day, which is exciting. Yes. And there are close to 100 different companies inside of the Sears Tower, and none of them are Sears. They moved away to the suburbs over a decade ago, and now it's only the Sears Tower because that's what it's famous for being. It has changed owners 3 times in the last 10 years.